this video's to get me off Twitter for a while. It's about identification. It's not got Beanie here. I put on video. People who like to see her. But I'll get straight on with this. Right, the difference between identification and an opinion is that someone says, "Oh, this is just my opinion," and then they're just ticking off everything that some ideology says, or some news media says, or some party says, or some whatever says. Then it's not. It's their opinion. It's not yours. It's theirs. You're just not thinking for themselves. Where an opinion is when you cannot see a pattern, where it's obvious that they're just taking everything from this or that power. And now if this power changes its opinion, you'll see the identifier change with it, even if they wouldn't have done so if that power had never said anything. So I'm trying to think of an example. Say someone's votes Tory, and we're going on with austerity under Osborne because they all like balance the books and good housekeeping and good finances and all that. Then suddenly it comes on to Johnson and Sunak, and it's all like, let's take public spending up to the highest levels it's ever been. And then they flip with that, but Osborne and them lot haven't changed. That's just a change because the power within the Tory party has shifted. So it's not their opinion. It's not their opinion. That is like absolute certainty. And it's the same on the left as well. When the centre left changes from socialist to New Labour and stuff like that. And you see it in America as well with the Democrats and Republicans, and the Republicans going from all this sort of economic sort of stuff I was on about there in terms of the right wing type, to this kind of like, I don't know what it is, insanity. That's all I can think. I don't know what to make of that. But of course, some do have principle, and they're clear off. That's the realignment, you see. But it's a kind of principle. But I claim that it's all still within the state superstructure, and it's still being herded into these new cages. I'm trying to think of an example of. This. Yesterday was this National Conservative thing. I liked Ken Clark and Portillo. Heseltine absolutely hate it. Within the musical chairs of the state superstructure, them people are still in it, but they've caged themselves in the Lib Dem category for me, Lib Dem cage. And there's no doubt about that now, because even their own people who like them say that. So who doesn't say it? And they say it themselves. So. Although they won't use the word cage because they're part of the superstructure, so they don't buy into what I'm saying because it wouldn't be convenient to admit that. So like there's a hierarchy of intelligence within state superstructure, and obviously the ones who benefit most from the state superstructure are more intelligent than the ones who identify with them, because the ones who identify with them obviously they're like puppets on a string. So obviously the people in the state superstructure, however immoral I think they are, I've never claimed that they are dumb. I claim that the state superstructure works. Good science, propaganda. It's coming unstuck, maybe, but you can't say it's dumb when it's lasted 150 odd years. Well, it lasted forever. That squeaking is annoying. It's annoying, and it's been playing with a toy. Right, hopefully she shut up. Right, so I think that was a very important point I was making about opinion, the identification. That clearly both are real, both but they're different things. Now, the state superstructure being smart, according to the Australian journalist Caitlin Johnston, who's good, she's good, and she's moral, she says that the people who see through it, I'll read out how she puts it, but she's on about people who see through it. She says, people who've escaped psychologically abusive relationships tend to have a much better understanding of propaganda than people who haven't, and tend to have a lot more sympathy for the victims of propaganda brainwashing. That's quite strong, but I think she's onto something there, and it's correct. Now, I've noticed that some of the people who are better at getting around this, and I can't be caged, what they do so well is that they want the view they've got to be, obviously, they want it to be popular, obviously, and therefore they're the ones who get annoyed when people who think similar to them suddenly go off how they're thinking, sort of thing, because they see that they see that those people who maybe go off how they're thinking are just identifying, and they kind of see through their own side. They think, there's something in them. I've seen it just yesterday with people like Rowan Jones. They sort of like see that their own side aren't really their own side. So therefore they bash them to bits, and then the identifiers on their side sort of like wonder, why are you always doing that to me? Why don't you get the Tories or whatever? And it's because of that reason. They've seen you're just the same, you're just identifying. And that took a long time for me to get when it's other people who are thinking this way. They see that they're not interested in just like ticking boxes like admin. Oh yeah, I'll think that because that's what you're. And I also think that a lot of the identifiers are obviously unconscious that they do it, but it can be shown to them. They can learn, they can see their own patterns. It'd be a bit weird if they couldn't, because you could prove it over time. I mean, so it's a matter of awareness. Some people are aware of these things, of power, and other people just not. It's obviously when people who become aware of it, that could never possibly go back if they lived to 250. It's like saying, could you become, it's no different to saying, no different whatsoever to saying, when you've matured, could you imagine going back to being immature? It's exactly the same as that. It's exactly the same. It's impossible, because you just do not want to do that to yourself. It's exactly the same, and it's part of that maturity. That's in that. It's part of the ingredients of that maturity. Now, I just want to point something else out. I agree with the view that it's common sense that if you say revolution, that can be chaos. But I'm not for that type of revolution. I'm just going to get rid of the poison. I don't want to replace it. You see, revolution, understand, most people are correct when they say that revolution implies that you've got all the machinery there, state superstructure, you just take like that and shove the other lot in after a whole load of violence. I don't want the violence, and I don't want to shove the other lot in. They want to get rid of the poison. They always want to take the power corruption away, the megaphones that can reach 1 million people while you can reach 20, yet they say you've got as much power as they have. It's just like Alice in Wonderland. You think, why do I start to argue that point? I don't. It's mathematics. They think that their free speech, where they can reach millions of people, they think that you have that exact same equality of them, the same right, no, that sort of thing. It's just like, you can't even argue back on that, because you just think like, what you're going to say back to them is so obvious, that they're obviously emotional. So you don't just think, I'm not going to argue that point. Right, so it's not about replacing it. It's because, why don't we replace it? Because we don't want that megaphone. So we think, so if I'm saying that, then I obviously do believe what I'm saying. Because I'm thinking, well, I would have that megaphone, so I'd be corrupt. I wouldn't think that I have this megaphone, now I've only got the same amount of power as I had before. I am arguing the point now, I admit. I think, no, I've got more power. Power enough to totally propagandise and influence and have too much power, basically, be corrupting. And so we get rid of the power and control, divide and rule point. Do not replace it. Not is the key word. Do not do that. Because then we'd be powerful and we'd be second-class citizens, and those second-class citizens would have a right to say that they're well within their rights to trigger a revolution against us. Well within the rights to trigger a revolution against us for the same reason as we triggered the revolution against them, and they would be right. We should be brought down as absolute, expletives. Of course. Right. That's it. That's the video, thankfully short, because Bean's my dog is making a lot of noise.